Hello and welcome back. I've always loved looking at the moon, whether it be with the naked eye or through a telescope, or even just a cheap pair of binoculars. Our nearest celestial object has always awed me, as I'm sure it has many of you. Imagine my surprise then, when I stumbled across this video by Multitomtom, telling us it is not what we think it is. Enjoy.
The moon is not a rock floating in space.
Correct. The moon is not simply floating in space.
It is a luminary, possibly made of plasma.
A luminary made of plasma. You mean like the sun?
It is also very close, not 238,000 miles away.
I trust you have evidence to support this claim.
As they say in the spinning basketball in the vacuum of space model.
You could have just said in the globe model or reality instead of all that other stuff.
All evidence points to the moon being close because
Here we go. The evidence we asked for.
when you look up at the moon at night, you see the clouds around the moon being lit up.
That doesn't mean that the moon is close.
If the moon was 238,000 miles away, then it should light up half the night sky.
Why? It's not producing that light. It's reflecting it.
This does not happen. The moon does not reflect sunlight,
Clearly it does.
but creates its own light.
If it was creating its own light, then why can we see features on it? Why can we see shadows on it? These images show shadows on the moon. And if you get yourself a telescope, you can even see these shadows for yourself.
From within itself. You will be able to see this clearly when you zoom in onto the moon with a powerful telephoto lens. You will be able to see pockets of light emanating from the interior of the moon.
Let's have a look at one of these images again. I'll open it in Photoshop so I can zoom in better. Okay, so this is an image of the moon. And if we zoom in, no, that's the brightest spot. I'm just getting pixels now. Yeah, that's not producing any light. What about this one? Maybe this one does. No, still just a crater. No, I think you're mistaken when you think that the moon is producing any light. It just can't do that.
Also, the moon does not have craters as claimed in the heliocentric model.
No? What is this then? What are the things I just showed?
If you've ever seen a geyser or a hot spring, then you'll see mud bubbles like this.
So the moon is made from mud?
And this mud is boiling up. This is due to the heat and pressure from underground, and it boils the mud on the surface. The exact same phenomena is happening on the moon when it is at the waxing stage.
And what causes that heat and pressure?
It's just like a skin that has boils on it.
So the moon is a mud-faced teenager. That'll make a great title.
And the craters, some people say the craters cast shadows on the moon. This is true to an extent.
But you just said...
Also, the moon does not have craters.
So, which is it?
Because, as I've said, the light from within is shining out from inside out, and once it passes the crater, obviously it's going to cast a shadow.
A shadow on the exteriors of craters only, yet we can clearly see shadows inside the craters. Also, that stutter
is
indicative that you know what you're saying is wrong and you saw your argument falling apart.
There are no craters on the moon.
You said that already.
Nor can you walk on the moon.
Well, duh. It's not like you can call an Uber to get you there. No one has walked on the moon since 1972.
Look at this cartoon image of a lunar phase. And they're trying to tell us that this is what happens during one whole month.
Well, not exactly. That's the phases of a lunar month, which is roughly 28 days.
I've said earlier that the moon does not reflect sunlight.
Yes, and you were wrong then. What new thing are you going to be wrong about now?
So how does the moon phases work?
Oh, that's easy. The moon is tidally locked to us, meaning we only ever see one side of it. However, it does rotate, so the sun is reflected off it from the corresponding angles. Sadly, you used a particularly bad graphic for it. In this animation, you can see the phases over a full month.
It is simply the charging and discharging of the moon's energy.
Where does this energy come from? And where does it go? Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe?
Waxing is when the moon charges itself.
It charges itself? Is there some sort of USB port it plugs itself into up there?
And waning is when it discharges its energy.
How and where?
This process is a 30-day cycle.
So it takes 2 days longer than the actual lunar cycle. Does it also travel back in time over those 2 days? Is that where it gets the energy from, or loses it?
50 days for charging or waxing, and another 15 days for waning or discharging.
Ah, so it travels back in time twice over the cycle.
All the ancient cultures used the moon as a calendar.
Wow, this is actually true. What is also true is that they knew more about the lunar cycle than you apparently do.
And believe it or not, they knew more about our world than we do in the 21st century.
Care to elaborate on that?
And just like the sun, the moon also moves in a sine wave kind of function.
The sun doesn't move. The Earth wobbles. Same with the moon. Earth wobble causes the effect. It's how we get solar and lunar eclipses rarely. If everything was level, that happened monthly.
It goes up and down on a nightly basis. And look at this ludicrous image.
Is it ludicrous because you don't understand it?
Trying to show a lunar eclipse.
It's not trying to show. It is showing.
They use fancy words like umbra and penumbra.
They're not fancy words. Sequoia, euphoria, pluviophile. These are fancy words. Umbra and penumbra are simply words used to describe the two parts of a shadow.
As if that will prove their bullshit theory.
No, we prefer to use simple words so that people like you and children can actually understand what we mean.
The sun, the moon, and the earth do not ever line up like this, because there is no heliocentric model.
Just because you can't understand it doesn't mean that it is false.
The lunar eclipse is not an eclipse at all.
What is it then? Someone changing the moon's light globe?
But simply the moon resetting itself.
Why does it need to reset?
It's resetting its energy.
Why doesn't the sun do the same thing?
If you observe the moon over a period of time, then you will know that everything about the moon is cyclic.
That's why it's called a lunar cycle. Duh.
Once you know its cycles, then you can predict its future. You can predict what the moon will do in the future.
Wow, you're the first person to ever think of that. It's not like humans have been doing that since before the recorded time.
This is very simple.
And yet, you seem to be struggling with it.
This is how the ancient people knew how to figure out future eclipses. No pseudoscientific nor science fiction fantasy explanation is required.
Nope, that's only required to explain your model of the moon.
Also, the Earth's shadow does not fall on the moon.
It does during a lunar eclipse.
That is an absurd claim.
Oh, the irony.
The moon is a negative energy to the sun's positive.
What? What the hell does that mean?
Everything on flat Earth can be explained with logic, reason, and common sense.
Correct. If you have none of those things, the flat Earth and this lunar model make perfect sense. Oh, that's the end. He didn't even say goodbye or thank you, subscribers. That really raised a lot more questions than it answered. There are currently 3 theories for the formation of the moon. Here's some Barney level explanations for them. The co-creation, meaning that the Earth formed at the same time as the moon. This is the least likely. The capture, where the gravity well of the Earth trapped the moon into its orbit. Again, not very likely. Finally, the collision, where 2 bodies collided. One was about the size of Mars, and the other one was slightly smaller than the Earth is now. After the collision, they coalesce and we were left with the Earth and the moon. This is the most likely one. None of them say someone screwed it in like a light bulb. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed discovering that the moon is in fact a mud-faced teenager. As always, a special thank you to the Acolyte tier and above patrons, Purple Haze and Pyramid Head. And to you, dear viewer, I remind you to leave a comment and share this video. Until next time, friends, don't be a dick. Good night.